Die-hard fans of Gossip Girl love that Chuck and Blair ended up together, but let's play devil's advocate for a moment. What if Chuck and Blair were never destined to be together, and they ended up married to other people? Here are 5 guys Blair could have married instead of Chuck, and 5 girls Chuck could have married instead of Blair. For the sake of entertainment purposes only, of course. Blair could have married Louis Grimaldi, and in fact, she did. The truth of the matter is that Louis would have actually been a great partner for Blair if Chuck hadn't been in the picture all along. Louis really loved Blair, and he followed her to New York City after she gave him her heel, Cinderella style, after they met in a Paris art museum. Louis was willing to go above and beyond to make things work with Blair, and she was ready to become full-fledged royalty as the Princess of Monaco. If Chuck wasn't around, Blair and Louis would have definitely enjoyed their happily ever after. Chuck could have married Eva Koo. Eva was the one who nursed Chuck back to health after he was shot in the middle of a dangerous alleyway. She stuck by his side before knowing he was the wealthy son of a billionaire. Eva literally knew nothing about Chuck, aside from the fact that he needed to be cared for, and she stepped up to do that for him. We have no doubt in our minds that Chuck and Eva could have also had a happily ever after marriage if Blair hadn't sabotaged their relationship. After Blair framed Eva by placing Chuck's passport in Eva's luggage, Chuck accused Eva of being a gold digger. It wasn't true, but Eva still dumped him anyway because he aggressively accused her of that. If Blair hadn't sabotaged them, who knows where Chuck and Eva could have ended up. Blair could have married Dan Humphrey. Let's be real for a second. Dan genuinely loved Blair. His feelings for Blair were so incredibly valid. Just think about the way he fondly and affectionately wrote about her in his novel, Inside. As a reminder, he didn't write about Serena that way. He wrote about Blair with love because he was wholeheartedly in love with her. All that being said, we can definitely picture an alternative universe where Blair ended up married to Dan instead of Chuck. Blair and Dan might not have gotten along when they first met each other, but the feelings he developed for her were undeniable. He even stood by her side when she was a runaway bride, the day she regrettably married Prince Louis. Chuck could have married Raina Thorp. Raina was another awesome girlfriend for Chuck. He had true feelings for her. Chuck actually took Raina seriously, even though they started out as friends with benefits. He had manipulation in mind when he first started hooking up with her, but as time progressed, he realized they spoke the same language and were on the same page about a lot of things. He was attracted to her business prowess, her entrepreneurial spirit, and her overall intelligence. When she overheard him talking to Lily Vander Woodson horribly, she dumped him. Raina didn't like the fact that he was so comfortable disrespecting his stepmother. If that hadn't happened, Chuck and Raina could have very well ended up with a great love story and marriage. Blair could have married Nate Archibald. The reason Nate is on this list as a great alternative partner for Blair is that Blair and Nate had so much history under their belts before they broke up. They decided to break up because they felt like they should leave their relationship in high school since they originally started dating as young children. When they called it quits on prom night, they were convinced that their relationship was too immature to carry into adulthood. Maybe they should have reevaluated that a bit. The childhood sweetheart trope would have been a beautiful thing to see if it ultimately turned into a marriage. Chuck could have married Vanessa Abrams. Chuck and Vanessa briefly hooked up with each other, and at the end of the day, she really did bring out the best in him. Chuck obviously wasn't taking her seriously at first, but when they started discussing the possibility of saving the historical bar that was about to be closed down, another side of Chuck came to the surface. Vanessa noticed that he was capable of being generous. Chuck and Vanessa could have been a great match in marriage based on the way he emotionally elevated and matured while he spent time with her. Blair could have married Marcus Beaton. Blair and Marcus are a could-have, would-have, should-have story for the ages. Blair wasn't too interested in Marcus at first, but after realizing that he was a lord, she gained a deeper attraction to him almost instantly. That's to be expected for someone like Blair who's super attracted to men who are either on her level or above it. The reason Blair and Marcus didn't work out is that he was secretly hooking up with his stepmother, Duchess Catherine Beaton. Blair also had lingering feelings for Chuck while she was dating Marcus. If Catherine and Chuck were non-factors on Gossip Girl, Blair and Marcus are another couple who could have made it work for sure. Chuck could have married Jenny Humphrey. Plenty of Gossip Girl fans might argue that Jenny and Chuck should have never hooked up that fateful night at the end of season 3, but that was a pivotal moment for the show. Chuck and Jenny's hookup made Gossip Girl 1,000 times more interesting than it already was, and that's just facts. The passion of that night was fueled by the dark and deep feelings of sadness. But what if Chuck and Jenny had the chance to experience a night of passion that wasn't fueled by their depression? We'll never know, but this is one match that definitely would have been attention-grabbing if viewers got to see it play out. Blair could have married Carter Basin. The only reason Carter is on this list as someone Blair could have potentially married instead of Chuck is the fact that Blair was obviously attracted to bad boys. The fact that she ended up with Chuck says it all. Bad boys were definitely her vice, and Carter fit that bill for her perfectly. We also know that Carter was capable of being a true gentleman based on the way he treated Serena while he dated her. If Carter was capable of displaying chivalry with Serena, we have no doubt he would have been able to display it with Blair too had they gone the route of ending up together. Chuck could have married Georgina Sparks. The idea of Chuck ending up with Georgina might sound super random, but he did admit that he lost his virginity to her when he was in middle school. That's one of the most intimate moments a person can share with someone else, and Chuck shared that with Georgina. They never hooked up with each other again in their adulthood, but that doesn't mean it would have been totally off base for them to try their luck at a relationship if Blair wasn't in the picture. Chuck obviously had a weakness for powerfully vindictive women who were capable of scheming since he ended up with Blair. Georgina also happens to fit that bill. We know Chuck and Blair were perfect together as the ideal endgame couple. But what do you think of all these alternative options for Blair and Chuck when it comes to people they could have married instead of each other? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.